Welcome back to Watch the Bookerman and to episode number 26 of Paul Heyman's TNA 2010. As you can see, I just want to get straight into the episode tonight because we are on that build to Slammiversary. We want to keep the momentum going. This is the third of 4 weeks in that build, and the show kicks off with a recap of the conclusion to last week's show, the aftermath of Jeff Hardy's DQ victory over Matt Morgan. All three members of Bad Influence were beating down Jeff Hardy when AJ Styles ran to the ring, wielding a baseball bat to make the save. AJ Styles and Jeff Hardy stood shoulder to shoulder at the end of Impact. The commentators then discuss this incident to open the show, Mauro and Taz. Tonight, Bad Influence will be once again the centre of attention as Matt Morgan goes one-on-one with his former partner Hernandez. This is the first time that they have faced off since their team broke up. And also on tonight's show, before that, the World Heavyweight Champion is in action, and we're wasting no time because that will be the opening match of tonight's show. So just rated on various overnesses, and I'm not sure if it was rated on Mauro and Taz's Entertainment, I can't remember, but I'm assuming not, with it being a 74 rated segment. It continues the AJ Styles' Bad Influence storyline and gets us into the opening match. Kurt Angle and his opponent have come to the ring. Bobby Lashley then makes his way out from the back. The number one contender standing around halfway down the ramp, and he's looking to be scouting his Slammiversary opponent in a decent 1 minute segment. And we're going to a good opening match actually, another good performance from Kurt Angle as he defeats Austin Creed in 7 minutes 11 with an angle slam. We have to say it's a good showing for Austin Creed. It's a decisive win, but great heat and good wrestling. Kurt Angle picking up the victory, Creed with only a 46, but in terms of the way the match was put together, he did get some offense in and doesn't look terrible. The story of the match, of course, the most important thing is that Kurt Angle was able to decisively pick up that victory, convincing as I've put there, and it's noted that Kurt Angle did have a lot more trouble putting Austin Creed away than one would have expected, certainly more trouble than Bobby Lashley did in his last match. Nonetheless, the champion shows respect to the fight of Creed, which draws a negative response from Lashley. He's shaking his head. He thinks this is further evidence of Kurt Angle being a little bit too soft. As Kurt speaks in Creed's ear, Lashley enters the ring and pushes Creed away. Creed isn't looking to get into it with Lashley, and Lashley isn't impressed with Kurt's performance and his conduct after the match, but the World Heavyweight Champion takes a microphone and says that he's feeling sharper than ever. He adds that Lashley hasn't been in a match over 5 minutes since January the 7th, whereas Kurt is in the best condition of his career. Lashley speaks into Kurt Angle's microphone, telling him that he is not going to need more than 5 minutes at Slammiversary. Lashley then turns to leave, but quickly turns back around and drops Kurt with a spear, getting the better of Kurt for the second week in a row. Lashley then heads up the ramp, this time for real. Mauro and Taz note that if the match goes long at Slammiversary, that may well play in the favour of Kurt Angle, but there's no guarantee of that happening. That's what we're putting over as the dynamic going into this World Heavyweight Championship match, as Lashley doesn't perform particularly well, whereas Kurt is fantastic and improvises in a very good way, getting the crowd hot nonetheless, and an 82 will add heat to that storyline, which the dynamic, like I've said, if Bobby Lashley can find a way to end this match quickly, be the impactful wrestler that we know that he is, then that does play into his favour. The longer the match goes, the better for Kurt Angle, but as the commentator said, there is no guarantee of that happening at all. Bad Influence are then shown in the interview area, and they've requested time, but without JBL or Brooke, they can speak for themselves. Daniels says that there was no time to prepare, but he has some breaking news that is going to delight everybody. Not only will they see Bad Influence during the main event, as Matt Morgan faces Hernandez, he also has a huge surprise planned for everybody before then. Daniels has been racking his brains wondering who AJ Styles could have been reaching out to. AJ's been looking for backup all week, and he wondered who would be in AJ's old phone book, and in his infinite wisdom, he's worked it out. Unfortunately for AJ, Daniels got there before him, and he's brought this man to the Impact Zone tonight, so AJ's plan has failed according to Daniels. We'll see how accurate that is with a decent promo. In the back, Jimmy Jacobs is shown with the Knockouts Tag Team Champions, the New Age members, Awesome Kong and Hamada. Jacobs speaks in uncertain terms regarding the Slammiversary Challenge. He's not declining it, but he's certainly not accepting it after Alyssa Flash and Mischief requested that match last week. As he continues to be non-committal, Awesome Kong and Hamada each give him the same look, making it clear what they want. Jacobs tells the pair, if you're sure about this, before officially accepting the challenge. Kong and Hamada have pressed him into it and pushed him into making that decision. As they are led away by Jacobs, Daphne is shown lurking in the background, just as she had been last week during the challenge that was made. So she's very much on the peripheral of this storyline at the minute, but we are reminding everybody that we're not just forgetting about Daphne in this situation. We then get the qualifying match, the final one-on-one qualifying match. That'll be explained after this one though, as Angelina Love defeats ODB in 10 minutes 27, so it's a competitive, fairly long match. A breaker bitch, I'm not 100, is that the pedigree I think? I'm not sure. We get a little bit of a distraction from Velvet Sky that does play into the finish and showing Velvet's worth to Angelina Love finally. Both very evenly matched and they have good chemistry, so we do come out with a strong 60 rated in a decent wrestling match with good heat. After the match, Angelina Love is joined by the difference maker Velvet Sky, and the beautiful people celebrate Love's qualification for the Knockouts Championship match at Slammiversary. It is now Tara, Madison Rayne, Sarita and Angelina Love. But of course there's one place left in that Queen of the Mountain match, and next week there will be an over-the-top rope battle royal. It'll be some of the people who've already had their chance and lost, and some people who haven't been given the opportunity yet. All of them will face off just 3 nights before the pay-per-view, the winner taking the final spot in the Knockouts Championship Queen of the Mountain ladder match at Slammiversary. Heading to the back, we see a confrontation between Samoa Joe and Desmond Wolfe, with Joe telling Wolfe that he's mistaken if he thinks he's going to get away with throwing him from the stage last month. He's not forgot about that. Wolfe may have. Wolfe laughs this off and asks why he's not done anything yet. He knows where Wolfe is. It seems like Joe is all talk and no action. He says that Joe knows exactly what would happen if he tried it, but Joe steps up to Desmond Wolfe and says that he seems to be forgetting that Joe knows him better than anybody in TNA. Joe says that he's known Wolfe way before this persona he's been putting on in TNA, and Wolfe knows exactly what Joe is capable of. Desmond Wolfe tests this theory by slapping Joe in the face and daring him to act. Joe looks close to boiling over. He is furious, however manages to keep his cool because he's spoken to Paul Heyman just like Wolfe suggested, and it's going to be Wolfe v Joe at Slammiversary. So maybe an underwhelming way to announce that match, but it's going to be a really good match for the pay-per-view. Wolfe and Joe have a hell of a lot of history in Ring of Honor, and we're kind of tiptoeing along the lines that Joe knew Wolfe when he was Nigel McGuinness. We're not saying that this is a pretend name or anything, we're not crossing that line, but the idea is that Joe's saying Wolfe's changed a lot since he came to TNA, and Samoa Joe knows the real Desmond Wolfe, and he thinks that's going to play into his favour. Both of them doing well when improvising, which gives us a 74, gaining heat to the storyline. Very happy with that segment, even though it's just a short throwaway backstage segment. I feel like this match will get its chance to shine, and I've got no worries about the build, really. Jay Lethal then makes his way down to the ring and calls out Kazuchika Okada as he had said he would last week. Instead of getting Okada, Roderick Strong comes down to the ring again. There was that tension between Jay and Roderick last week. This is only made worse because before Roderick Strong can speak, Jay makes it clear he doesn't want to talk to Strong. He wants to talk to Okada. He made it clear. He knows that Roderick Strong speaks English, so he doesn't understand what the confusion is. While the two begin to bicker, it can't go any further because the music of Okada does hit. Okada comes out, but is joined by that translator. The man walks down to the ring and introduces himself as Larry Sweeney. He says that he has an eye for greatness, and having spoken with his contacts in Japan this week, he can officially announce that he is the US agent of Kazuchika Okada. He thinks that this is a great pickup for himself, and it's going to do wonderful things for Okada's career. Whatever Jay Lethal has to say can go through him. We're not saying that Larry Sweeney is going to translate or anything, but rather that he has now got power of attorney, or whatever you'd call it. He's in charge of Okada's career, essentially. Jay continues, but Larry quickly cuts him off. The idea here is that he's telling Jay Lethal to say what he has to say, but he really has no interest. He says that before any of that, Okada's so glad to have both champions here because he has beaten both of them in the last 28 days. Sweeney says that he takes the raw talent and he creates a superstar, a champion, a double champion. That's why he's here tonight, as he challenges both men to defend their titles at Slammiversary. It's going to make Larry Sweeney a lot of money. It's going to make all three competitors a lot of money. So what do they say to a three-way match at Slammiversary? Both the titles on the line. He thinks that's going to be a huge pay-per-view draw. Strong and Jay exchange glances, and both of them almost encouraged by the other. Lethal doesn't want to be the one to reject the challenge. Strong doesn't want to be the one to reject the challenge. Both men then agree to accept the challenge. Unfortunately, Larry Sweeney's debut gimmick of sleazy agent gets a poor rating. Hopefully that can improve over time. But we have another match confirmed there for Slammiversary. The negative of this match is that one of the two new champions will lose their title after just a month, but I want there to be a feeling of the new breed of TNA, the new guys. Jay Lethal, of course, has been there quite a while, but we're trying to build him up into being a credible contender. Roderick Strong has only been here maybe 6 months, Okada a little bit less than him, but all three of them now, a fresh match that we've never seen before, 2 titles on the line, so hopefully for guys who've been teetering along the mid-card, this gives them a fairly marquee match at the pay-per-view, and hopefully it comes across that way. We then get an interview with Mr. Anderson in the back. He's asking about last week, but just like last week, Mr. Anderson has nothing to say. Instead, Bashir decides that he'll answer the question, although not doing well without a script, which contributes to a poor segment that hurts the storyline. Bashir answers the question about his alignment with Mr. Anderson. He says that his name is Sean Abdul Bashir, but you can call him Sean. He's not a sheikh, and he never was. He's just a guy who has been best friends with Mr. Anderson for 10 years. Bashir explains that the two of them bonded and became such strong friends on their understanding of this business. They know exactly what buttons to push to evoke a reaction from people. They just get it. A lot of people in this business don't these days, but they just get it. They're so good that Bashir can tell the fans what they're doing to their faces, and they're still like putty in their hands. Bashir just has to say one word, and all these sheep will boo him. Mr. Anderson has nothing to say because he doesn't even need to say anything. People want to see this war of words between the Pope and Mr. Anderson, but they know that there's money in making people wait. So change the gimmick. He's just got sidekick, but it is a very good rating. I think as the character develops more, I'll probably rename it to something more specific. He's kind of a representative of Mr. Anderson, kind of what he did with Kurt Angle in WWE. The idea here is that Mr. Anderson, again playing this too cool for school character, he's above it all, and Sean Bashir's playing into this by basically telling the fans to the face that it doesn't matter what they're like in reality. The fact that when they come on TV, they can act like dicks, they can do what they want, and these people will still buy tickets, although that's not strictly true for the Impact Zone, and come to shows, buy pay-per-views, etc. Just shows how good they are at this whole wrestling thing. We then go into a match after the break that shows he's not actually that good at this wrestling thing, because he is convincingly defeated by D'Angelo Dinero, pinning Sean Bashir in 5 minutes and 35 with a DDE. It's a decent performance, mid-card level performance from D'Angelo Dinero, I'd say. Bashir, lower mid-card level, we might say. I suppose Bashir's average performance at 51, Dinero just above that. But the Pope has spoken, Anderson has not. Storyline has advanced with this segment and continues to after the match, albeit with a little bit of an underwhelming performance. D'Angelo Dinero stands tall in the ring, but is quickly jumped from behind by Mr. Anderson. While Rob Terry had been at ringside during the match, Anderson's appearance came completely out of nowhere. Mr. Anderson then brutally lays into D'Angelo Dinero before gesturing finally for that microphone to come down. Anderson once again teases finally speaking, but stops and instead drives the microphone repeatedly into the skull of D'Angelo Dinero. Pope is then completely motionless, and Anderson slowly moves the microphone towards his mouth. He speaks slowly and tells the Pope that you are not on my level, not in the ring, not on the microphone, and at Slammiversary he is going to put him back in his place. Anderson then drives the microphone into Pope's skull once more before heading back up the ramp. We're really putting over how badly D'Angelo Dinero has been hurt in this post-match attack. That microphone going into his head multiple times really would hurt. Gaining heat to the storyline because Anderson looks good there. Invented a new catchphrase. Is it around this time in reality he started using the asshole line? Because maybe this can be where he debuts it. I know we've mentioned him being an asshole before, but I don't know if it's been directly used in a promo before. So maybe in the midst of that promo we did, he puts over the fact that he's an asshole, which did get pretty popular in TNA when he actually was there in reality. I think he cut some promos that was just him repeating the word asshole over and over again, so it definitely got over. So we'll link that into what happened in reality. Anderson calling himself an asshole, and that's why he's going to do what he's going to do to the Pope at Slammiversary. We then open the second hour with Kazarian and Daniels making their way down to the ring, and they recap their issues with AJ Styles, saying that they have delved really very deep and they have found somebody who knew AJ Styles before all this fame and this facade that came with him becoming a star in TNA. They introduced to the Impact Zone audience Air Paris, AJ's former partner. The commentators informed viewers of this long forgotten performer, especially in 2010. I don't think many people are going to be that aware of him. It's 9 years since he was a bit part player in WCW. As he enters the ring, Daniel says that Paris knows the real AJ Styles, and Air Paris nods. Daniel says that they're giving him a once-in-a-lifetime platform to expose the real AJ Styles. Nobody knows him better than Air Paris. And Daniels is trying to encourage him to put over that as soon as he got a call, as soon as he got a better offer, he dropped Air Paris where he stood. But Air Paris says that isn't the case at all. He doesn't know what Daniels was expecting here tonight, but Paris is still in contact with AJ and his family regularly. Despite the success, AJ hasn't changed one bit, and Kaz and Daniels really don't like this. This interview isn't going, and they've pulled the microphone away from his face. Kaz is trying to intimidate him into saying something else, but Air Paris just insists that AJ's a great guy. He's one of his best friends still to this day, and his loyalty, his humbleness, he's really just putting him over to the nth degree. And having heard enough, AJ Styles comes down and he tells Daniels and Kazarian to give it up. It's about time they just got a grip on reality. The Impact Zone is packed to the rafters tonight, and he thinks that their third man may just show his face after this main event between Hernandez and Matt Morgan. So a tease for later in the night, hopefully keeping people stuck to the television. A great rating for Air Paris' thrill seeker gimmick. We then have a really good match, actually, quite surprised by that. Great heat and good wrestling, and Desmond Wolfe picks up a win over Amazing Red, 7 minutes 35 with a jawbreaker lariat. Unfortunately for Red, he had a great start to the year as X Division champion, winning all of his matches, but he's still putting in good performances and getting involved in good matches. I do have hope for Amazing Red, particularly with Explosion coming. I think he can shine there against some lesser known people, try and build him up. The X Division has been neglected, I will say, I'll admit that, which is something I really didn't want to do. There's going to be time, and with this three-way match at Slammiversary, I think after Slammiversary, which is easy to say because it's tomorrow never comes, but I do think that we're going to get a little bit more structure to the division when we're bringing those two titles together. Coming out from the back after Wolfe's victory, Samoa Joe has a microphone in his hand and stands at the top of the ramp. Wolfe goes to get a microphone of his own, but Joe says, "Shut up, we've heard enough from you. It's time that for once, Desmond Wolfe listened to somebody else." Joe says again that he knows Wolfe better than anybody, not just through their TNA careers, but for all the years before Wolfe made it here. Every locker room that Joe has ever walked into until he got to TNA, Wolfe was there, and every time the two of them butted heads. Whether backstage or in the ring, he has never liked Desmond Wolfe, and he knows that the feeling is absolutely mutual. They were two of the most in-demand people on the independent circuit, and because of that, their egos meant that they always clashed. But when it came to TNA, things were different. They weren't just two guys in the locker room anymore, because Joe was already an established leader in that locker room, and Wolfe was nobody. Wolfe hasn't been the small fish in a big pond for a long time, and that's why he's been doing all this BS from day one. He's been trying to overcompensate since he came to TNA, going after Kurt Angle, going after Jeff Hardy. It's all because he knows that he doesn't mean a damn thing in TNA. Joe doesn't just speak for himself, he speaks for every guy in the locker room who is sick of Desmond Wolfe's act, everybody who knows that this is just a facade. He is desperate to be accepted here in TNA, and Wolfe needs to listen up, because at Slammiversary, his tough guy image is going to die, and Joe is going to be the one to kill it. So it's a really good promo from Samoa Joe there, getting a 78 rating. Adding heat to the storyline, taking it up definitely to that next level. It's been 70 to 75, the segments between them, now up closer to the 80s. Hopefully on next week's show I can work something in that gets them even higher for the go home segment, but we'll see about that. We then get an interview with Hernandez, who is in the main event tonight, and he is talking about Matt Morgan. He says that this match has been a long time coming, and he can't wait to show Matt Morgan what he's missing tonight. JB asks if the rumours of him being the third man of AJ's team is true. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation that there'll be a 6-man match at Slammiversary, but Hernandez is only focused on the match tonight. If he has his way, Jeff Hardy and AJ Styles won't need a partner for Slammiversary because he plans to take Matt Morgan out tonight. Fairly average, not much to say about that segment, just done to promote the main event. We then have Maro and Taz turning their attention back on the next match of the night, but we're forced to send to the back as we hear of another incident going down. There's always something going down backstage in TNA, and there we see Daphne has lunged at Mischief, seemingly from out of nowhere, having found her and Alyssa Flash in the back. Despite Alyssa being behind the double cross of Daphne seems to blame it on Mischief and goes directly for her. She puts all her aggression towards the woman who replaced her. The two women then fight on the ground until Alyssa Flash can pull Daphne away. It's not easy. Daphne is absolutely focused on this task. Alyssa then pushes Daphne away and holds Mischief back. Both of them want to fight. Flash telling Daphne to back off, but Mischief isn't going to let it go and demands that Daphne meets her in the ring next week. Flash isn't so sure about that. They've got a match at Slammiversary to prepare for, but we're showing already here that Mischief is very much a hot-headed character. This is going to serve her well, of course, when she's worked with Alyssa Flash in those matches and at Slammiversary, but perhaps when it comes to getting involved in these fights with other members of the locker room, it might not be the best thing in terms of focusing on the match ahead. It's a poor match here, quite surprisingly. I'm not fully sure why it's done so badly. I mean, I know that Jesse Neal and Rhino haven't been used well or at all, really. Lack of an associated storyline, so various things with Neal, and I think fair enough, to be honest. It's a short squash match, 5 minutes and 9 seconds. Beer Money hitting a DWI to Jesse Neal, who was the weak link in the match, so justifiably the one to take the fall, and it's just continuing to hopefully get some momentum for Beer Money and to show just how dominant our tag team champions are. James Storm and Robert Roode then stand tall in the ring following their victory. The commentators putting over that they still don't know who will be facing the World Tag Team Champions at Slammiversary. Next week, just 3 nights before that anniversary show, British Invasion, the Hooligans and Motor City Machine Guns will face off in a 3-way match. The winning team will face Beer Money for the World Tag Team titles at Slammiversary. Plans have actually changed with this. From way back, I think from when the Hooligans debuted, I had penciled in a 3-way Full Metal Mayhem match, Motor City Machine Guns, Hooligans and Beer Money. I thought that I'd be able to build it so that came to a natural head at Slammiversary, that the way that the matches had been booked at the pay-per-views would lead to all 3 teams having a justification for fighting each other. I could have still done it, but coupled with the fact we already have a ladder match with the Queen of the Mountain, I thought that it'd be a bit... I don't like the idea of having 2 separate ladder matches on the same show, nor do I like a Full Metal Mayhem match for the titles being with pinfall or submission, so we've scrapped that and now it will just be one of those 3 teams facing Beer Money, and we might keep the Full Metal Mayhem idea for Bound for Glory. It might be different teams by then. I think Generation Me would really suit that type of match, so it might be a case of one of the 2 teams or one of the 3 teams not being involved by Bound for Glory. We'll see how that sort of naturally progresses. Maybe expect a Full Metal Mayhem match at Bound for Glory, but it will just be a 2v2 at Slammiversary. Heading to the back, we see Lauren Brooke outside the locker room looking to get a word with Kurt Angle. The World Heavyweight Champion is furious about the events of the night, and when Lauren asks him about Lashley getting the better of him once again, he loses his temper. He doesn't like to hear that, probably because it hits home, because it's kind of been true for the last couple of weeks. He says that Lashley can get up to all his usual tricks, and he's sure that Paul Heyman is loving sitting back and watching it, but the only thing that matters is Slammiversary. Bobby Lashley can do whatever he wants before then, because nothing he's done is going to keep Kurt Angle down, and when he's ready for the match, it'll be the fight of both men's lives, one of the biggest matches in either man's career, and he is more than up for the task of beating Bobby Lashley at Slammiversary. So gaining heat to the storyline once more, really getting some consistently over 80 segments with this. Hopefully the Go Home show doesn't screw that up. I know, I think, was it Sacrifice? It might have been Lockdown actually, where I had a real dud segment when the Go Home show, and it probably knocked a couple of points off those main matches, so hopefully that is not something we see again, as Matt Morgan defeats Hernandez in 12 minutes and 4 seconds in the main event, hitting a carbon footprint. We're further playing into the fact that Hernandez's career has gone a little bit off the rails recently. He's not pushed on after the breakup in the way that Matt Morgan has. He's of course gone into the other team. Daniels and Kazarian are at ringside in a wild brawl match that we go all out. They don't directly get involved, but But it's fair to say that just by having Daniels and Kazarian there, it distracts Hernandez a little bit. So it's not enough for it to be a note, and it's not enough for it to be an excuse. But bad influence are always going to have a positive effect on the other member who's involved in the match. Matt Morgan, this time, benefiting from that with a carbon footprint, which is pretty much the signature move of that group. This leads into the post-match segment of the show, with Daniels and Kazarian joining Matt Morgan in the ring, standing over Hernandez, putting him down. AJ Styles and Jeff Hardy then come to the top of the ramp. They're not doing anything physical to Hernandez, so there's no reason for them to come down and try and save him, but they are being a little bit cocky, condescending, as they always are. Daniels seems to think that Hernandez was set to be announced as the third man. So he's obviously heard those rumours, and he's mocking AJ Styles and Jeff for the state that their partner is in. AJ Styles says that Hernandez is a great competitor, but he's got it all wrong. He's not the third man. And Daniels indicates that he doesn't really care. He knows every guy in that locker room. He knows everybody who's in the building right now. They run that backstage area. So he's not afraid of whoever it is, because there's not somebody in the back who he is afraid of. Styles says that Daniels should be careful what he wishes for, and then goes to turn away with Hardy. Bad Influence are underwhelmed. The show seemingly ending on a damp squib. There's no reveal. Daniels wants to know what AJ Styles means by that, and he's demanding, tell us who your partner is now. You can't go into the last week before Slammiversary. That's not fair. But instead, the last word comes from Jeff Hardy. He turns back and says the only thing that's for sure is that nothing is for sure. The Impact Zone is then plunged into darkness, apart from one single spotlight in the rafters. Ending the show, Sting walks into the light, marking his TNA return. As Impact goes off the air, Mauro declares, it's showtime. We have our third and final man for the Slammiversary Dream Team, a real TNA Dream Team I'd say. AJ Styles, Mr. TNA there from day one. Jeff Hardy, perhaps the biggest name in the company today, and the icon of TNA, a guy who has been there and done it all. He legitimised, he put TNA, or helped put TNA on the map, and those three will team together at Slammiversary against Bad Influence. We don't really get to see much of a reaction from Daniels, Kazarian and Morgan. That will come on the Go Home show, as the focus is entirely on the image of Sting as TNA Impact goes off the air. So a very, very good way to end the show. AJ, Daniels, both improvising well, and while Jeff Hardy struggled when going off script, we still gain heat to this storyline. A really good way to end a solid show. A 72 is okay, but I'm not really worried about the TV ratings. This is all about building the best pay-per-view that we can, and I'm pretty sure that we will do that. Another huge match added to the card, really hopefully taking that match up to the next level. We've got many matches confirmed. We've got a beer money match against one of those three teams. We've got the three-way title match that will see a global and X Division champion crowned. One man will leave with both of those titles. Samoa Joe versus Desmond. Wolfe. We've obviously got Bobby Lashley v Kurt Angle, the Queen of the Mountain ladder match. I really think this is a great card coming together, and on next week's show we will see the full card, and when it's on the screen I really think it will come across as one of the best cards that we could possibly have put together with the guys we have on our roster. I've not pre-booked much so far. Those will all be filled out, of course, in time for next week's show, and we'll see what is coming together as just an excellent show. Really looking forward to Slammiversary. Hopefully people are happy with the build. If not, if there's things you would like to have seen done differently, I'm always interested to hear it. But thanks for watching, and we'll be back soon, hopefully, with the Go Home show to Slammiversary 8. Really looking forward to that pay-per-view. One more thing I just remembered after the show. I was supposed to sort of mentioned that there was Evolve 3 between the last two episodes. It was supposed to be week 1 of May. To be honest, I completely forgot about Evolve for the last couple of months, but we managed to get the card together, which is pretty accurate towards what happened in reality. You can see it on screen now. The only difference, I think, is that Aeroform and Cheech and Cloudy had a third team involved in it, but they weren't in the mod and they weren't significant names that I was aware of, so I didn't worry too much about that. But we can see another decent show, albeit a lot of negative notes, because I am trying to get them done quite quickly, because the main focus is and will always be TNA in this save. But it's interesting to see Evolve develop, and I'm thinking now in the next few months we're going to try and link up Evolve and TNA and maybe use some of the Evolve guys on Explosion going forward, and maybe send one or two of our undercard wrestlers down to future Evolve wrestling shows.